Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Today we have a special workshop organized by Eligent Club in a new Eligent TV format called How to Build a Tech Startup from Concept to Market. It's a 2-hour event where we will share the insights, the knowledge about how to build your successful tech company. We have a special group of invited guests and experts joining us tonight. They are more than happy to share their knowledge and their recent insights on how to make it all successful. We will have 2 parts of our workshop. First part will be focused on startup idea and team building. So where to find a great startup idea in 2020, how to validate your tech startup idea, and how to make sure you have a good value proposition for your potential users and customers. Also, we'll speak about the team building, how and where to find a good co-founder and how to validate your teamwork. We will discuss the product development, which technologies to use for your tech startup developments, how to build your prototype, MVP, and how to organize your tech development process. And after that, we will have a special startup pitch. It's example of pitch practice from our Eligent Accelerator Falow. So our special guest experts will share their feedback on what to improve, how to make your pitch even better on that example. So if you'd like to see the example of tech startup pitch and also see the real-time feedback from our experts, so that will happen right after the first part. And in second part, we will speak about marketing and sales, growth and expansion, also startup pitch and investment. So how to organize, how to create a marketing and sales strategy, how to make a first sale for your startup, to create a growth strategy for your tech startup as well. Also, what is very important is we will speak about investment for your tech startup, where to find investment, how to identify relevant investor for your tech startup, and also startup pitch, how to make outstanding pitch presentation. Regarding the content and delivery, we will have a special topics on that. Before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Lars Størseth. I'm the founder of Eligent Club and Eligent Accelerator program. I'm a serial tech entrepreneur and entrepreneur resident of Brunel Business School, London. And I'm more than happy to share all the knowledge I have since all my experience in tech. Please check out our social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, we have a special WhatsApp group. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn, and please feel free to reach us out via info@eligent.club. If you'd like to know more about Eligent Club, please check it out via our eligent.club website. So we are moving on, and I would like to introduce our first guest tonight. It's Lars Størseth. He is the Eligent Club ambassador in the UK, London, and Lars is online already. Lars, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. And I would like to ask you, why do you think it's very important actually for startup founders to be part of some community or accelerator program? Why do you think it's a key for success? And maybe you can share some insights and your personal opinion on that.
Hello everyone, as introduced, my name is Lars Størseth. I'm the UK ambassador for Eligent Club and also Eligent Accelerator. In addition to that, I'm the managing director of Størseth Holding. We're a consultancy and advisory company. We help startups and growth companies obviously strategize, structure their business, get ready for the next stage of growth by adapting the right strategies, by positioning themselves correctly, increasing their bottom line. Furthermore, we also help companies raise capital and get access to the capital they need to go to the next stage. And that brings me back to what you were saying with the community, obviously, and why it's so important for growing companies. And I think the quintessential phrase is that you need to be able to stand on the shoulders of giants. And what this means is that you need to have people around you that you can learn from their failures, people who've already been where you are right now. It might not be the same idea, but they've been where you are now in terms of a company development. They've made the mistakes you're about to make, and they can help you avoid making those by giving you their learnings and helping you go through it without actually having to make those mistakes. And that's the great thing about the Odier community is that obviously all the members there, they've been there, they're all entrepreneurs. If it's in tech, if it's in sustainability, if it's in any other industry as well, it's growing. And being able to have access to those people and talk about issues meeting up for breakfast, discussing things in a very platonic manner. It's a great experience. And I think that philosophy also gets carried into this accelerator program, where every single startup in the program gets curated KPIs for their specific business case, rather than a generic form where you're just filling in the details every week. You actually get one-on-one mentoring, and you get designed measurements and performance trackers against your specific goals. And all of these things, obviously, they lead to, number one, you know what you're doing at what time. You get set on the right path, you get to talk to the right people. And what this actually leads to, obviously, is that when a company is mature enough to where we start talking to these guys, where we start discussing with startup founders, okay, what's next now? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to do now? A, B, Z, so on and so forth. The people who have gotten this sort of structured mentoring and help in the early stages of their company's life, they're much easier to work with. Because number one, we know that they know what they're doing, so it's easier for us to tell the story onwards. And number two, we know that they've been through the sort of fail quick strategies, where you're A/B testing new things, you're iterating, you're being agile in your development. And a story like that, it's much easier to, number one, sell to investors. Number two, it's much easier for us to help talk to you on a top level, where we can actually help you strategize and figure out, okay, what are the best things to do? Can we do A/B testing? So on and so forth. So just to recap, obviously, having a community around you is great, because you get to learn from others and the mistakes they've made. You also get to piggyback off of everyone else's successes, and also share your experiences and your success. And number two, when you actually, through a program like that, when you actually speak to real service providers, professionals who want to help you, consultants, so on, so forth, it's easier to work with, and your company is in a way better position to actually be ready to grow quick, rather than having to go through a whole nother transformation process because you were blind when you were growing in the beginning.
I completely agree with you, Lars. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. One more time, it was Lars Størseth, our Eligent Club ambassador from London, UK, and he was sharing his insights about why he thinks it's very important to be part of some entrepreneurial community and accelerator while you do your startup development. Thank you very much, Lars. Now I would like to introduce our next special guest, Karen Levy from Paris. She's already online with us. Karen, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Please introduce yourself, tell us a bit more about what you do. And I would like to ask, why do you think it's very important to be creative when you are building your tech startup, or it's important to collaborate with creative people in order to get a very good startup idea and also to make successful startup journey?
Thank you, Slava, for having me, and it's a pleasure to talk at this tech conference. So I'm one of the co-founders of AICA. AICA is a platform that provides synergies for the arts, new technology and specificity in Asia. We provide with tech content, but also strategies for example, corporate, startup, private and public institution, to include some new content, some new type of content, new technology, and also to give the best experience for the customers. So I think for me, as building a tech company, you need to really focus on being influential, different, with the experience you provide, but also to really think of the sustainability as well today. And it's very, very important for me to have a very creative content, because more and more you are in competition with other companies. And what will make the difference is really how the people will perceive your startup with the content and what you will provide for your customers.
It was Karen Levy from Paris, and we discussed about the importance of being creative and the importance to collaborate with some creative people in order to build successful startup journey. Thank you very much, Karen, and we are moving on. So it's very important to validate your startup idea before actually you decide to build something. How you can make it. The best way to make your startup idea validation is to make a first pre-sale pitch to someone and see if they're willing to try or see your product or service. It can be a very simple sketch or just like a mock-up on your mobile device, and something very simple where you can see the interest, potential interest of your target customers or users. Again, if you got some idea, please try to talk to people and see what they say about your startup idea, what the reaction about that. If you speak about the process of validating your tech startup idea, there are 4 steps to do so. First of all, it's a problem research. It's very important to see if the problem exists, how the problem was solved maybe previously by some other companies or teams or some other organizations. Also, it's need to build something very simple like a sketch, very simple prototype, something very basic to be able to demonstrate your potential idea or your solution to potential customers. So then it's very important to have some simple prototype or mock-up in order to be able to demonstrate how you're gonna solve the problem. And then to be able to pitch, it shouldn't be very complex speech or something very long. It can be very simple demonstration of the product. You can come to people, show to them what you built so far or what your idea is about, and then to see or hear the real-time feedback. Please know your value proposition. So it's very important to know what exactly your solution does, how it's relevant and how it's important for users to have it or to use that. And please, again, talk to these people, to your potential users or customers before you decided to build something in long run. It's very important to have very quick real-time feedback before making this decision. And now I would like to introduce our next expert, Adele Botha. Adele is our Eligent Accelerator mentor. And good evening, Adele. Thank you very much, Adele, for joining us. And I would like to ask you, what do you think the best approach to validate your startup idea? Maybe you're just about to start building your project. So how to make it?
Hi, thank you, Slava, and welcome everyone to this evening. My name is Adele Botha, and I'm a IT healthcare consultant, business innovation and mindset coach, as well as a startup advisor, mentor, and judge. Now, my area of passion really lies within business model innovation, design thinking, and creativity. And I help startups really in the early ages to really design the concept, create your idea, and help you to validate your business idea. So Slava has asked me this evening to speak to you about how to validate your business idea. So to answer the question, I want to start with problem solving, because I feel this is really key, and especially in today's environment. The first thing is really, how do we solve complex problems? Where we are today is totally different to where we were 3 or 4 weeks ago. Now, you might have a successful startup and you might have been doing really well for the last couple of years or even a couple of months, and all of a sudden overnight you find yourself having no customer segment, no target market. Your market has disappeared overnight. So this means that as a startup, you might have to go back to the beginning and retest your assumptions and really look at what is the actual problems. And it's your job as a startup owner and as an entrepreneur to really delve into those problems and find solutions. And the best way to do that is design thinking. So when we talk about design thinking, there's 2 ways that we can solve a problem. We can find one specific problem and one specific solution, and then we solve that problem. The limitations to that is we really narrow our focus, right? We also have another mode of thinking, which is diffuse thinking. It's really about finding various different solutions to various different problems. And again, that's very creative, that's very intuitive, and it's also like a big brainstorming exercise. But now we sit with the problem. How do we figure out which problem we need to solve from this big amount of problem solutions we've just identified? And this is where design thinking comes in. And this is where these thoughts of modes of thought converge, and you kind of have this opportunity to say, okay, let's take these assumptions, because when you look at your business model, the 2 key areas you have to extract is the customer segment and your value proposition. This is going to be your independent variable that you're going to be testing. So you're going to have loads of different solutions to loads of different problems, and through creating different personas, you will get to understand your customer segment, and you will be able to go out and say, okay, we've identified these 5 or 6 problems, which we now move into calling them assumptions or hypotheses, and we use a systematic way way to synthesize, to say this is the highest priority problem that we've identified, and we found a solution to either reduce the pain of that problem or to increase the gains for that problem. And now it doesn't matter if you're starting a new business and have a new idea, or if you have a current startup, you have to now go back and reevaluate your initial assumptions and retest them and revalidate them to figure out whether you need to pivot or whether you need to say, let's call it a day and move into a completely new category. So in the work I do, I work a lot with this early stage phase and the concept phase, and what we've found over the years, as well as working with startup, is this is really the crucial part where you need to put a lot of time and effort in, is your value proposition and customer segment. This is the crucial bit of a business model, and that will save you money and time, and it really works within a very uncertain and ambiguous business environment.
Thank you very much, Adele, for joining us and your contribution to our workshop. One more time, it was Adele Botha, our Eligent Accelerator mentor from the UK, with her insights on how to validate tech startup idea. So also I just want to make a bit of stress on problem research. Why it is important? It's very important because you can get a lot of answers to your potential questions regarding the problem, the solution, regarding what was working before and what is not working. So please make a problem research, and you can do it in multiple ways. First of all, you can make academic industry research, so you can go and read some academic papers, you can speak to your teachers, to some academic professionals. Also, you can ask target audience, you can talk and ask about problems, and also you can make a practical research. So if you know that there is a real problem, you can try to experience it. If someone is complaining you about some service, some company, some product, you can go and try that product yourself and see if the problems really exist. And that can give you a very good confidence about understanding what problem you're trying to solve. Regarding the problem research, what to focus on, when and where this problem came from, how big and actual the problem, and what is the evolution of solutions, what are the upcoming trends on how to solve the problem. All these questions need to be cleared after you make that problem research. As I mentioned before, you can go to ask a relevant academic industry expert, you can go to libraries on some other online publications, and you can also have your own research work like a PhD or some industry research. So again, please try to make sure you clearly understand the problem you're trying to solve. All right. Regarding the audience, regarding the figuring out what the audience think about the problem you're trying to solve, please ask the audience into multiple ways. First of all, for sure now it's a bit tricky, but in January you can go to offline events and meetups and conferences where you can ask people about the problem, about the solutions they used. So you can get a very detailed overview what the people think about that. Also, you can run, and now it's very actual, online interviews, questionnaires, some special online forums where you can ask people about the problem and also some solutions they used before. And also you can use the data analytics, so you can run social media campaigns, mail campaigns, you can create a landing page in order to collect some trial or test data regarding the problem and the interest of target customers or users, what exactly you're trying to do. Before building any product or service, try to make that research and make sure you have clear understanding about the problem, some existing solutions, and the target audience you're trying to do with. Now I would like to introduce our next expert, Matt Black from the UK. Matt, introduce yourself, and I would like to ask you, do you think it's important to start building your MVP before actually make any sale, or it's need to make first sale first and then to build an MVP? What do you think?
Really good question. So I think first you said, who am I and what's my intro? So Matt Black, serial entrepreneur for all my sins. I started my first company when I was a baby, 17 years old. And I was lucky I exited when I was 19, and I'm currently about to start my 11th company. At the moment, I have about 50 odd companies in my investment portfolio. I think in the last over the COVID lockdown period, I acquired just over £3 million worth of shares in companies, and I work with those companies that have pretty much all the important things. Like, they've got an idea that's really great, they've got a little bit of traction, and they've got some potentially the workings of an MVP and a bit of demand. And I take them and I just make them go. I get them funded and get them out in the marketplace. And I have a team of about 11 people that help me do that. And so, obviously I know this space very well, and I know the answer to your question very, very well, because I've worked with 5,000 or 6,000 startups over the last 30 years, solving exactly this problem. Build versus sell versus build. It's not quite cut and dry like that. The technical founders, people that know a lot about their industry, like high creatives, engineers, programmers, people that have been in industry for a long time, they tend to go the build first, sell later model. And that's because they think they know lots and lots about their clients, their target markets. But that's actually a trap that I see repeated over and over again, is that they might have a great skill in a particular area, but sales, marketing, understanding a customer, how to sell it, design innovation, go to market, there's so much stuff that they might not be experienced. It's especially dangerous if you come from a corporate background. It's especially dangerous. You should be wary. But also on the other side, you've got salesy type people that try to get out there and they sell it first, but they actually haven't got a product to sell. So my advice is step it out, do a little bit of building and then test it. Do a little bit of sales and then build the product. Do a little bit of actual building and do a little bit of actual testing, and do it as a circular process. It's called an iterative development model. It's very, very common. Look it up on the net. It's really the way to go. And advice I can give in 2 seconds about how to get a business off the ground quickly. But yeah, do it quick, get amongst it, build a little something, test it in the market, and then repeat.
It was Matt Black from the UK with his insights about the MVP and sales process. So thank you very much, Matt Black, one more time. And we are moving on. Let's speak a bit about team building. First of all, it's very important to find some good co-founder for your team. It's extremely important to find a reliable co-founder for your tech startup. First of all, it's very important to ask the question and get the answer. What kind of co-founder do I need? And definitely, you need someone who is able to make actions and someone who is able to take responsibility for decisions. Before trying to identify what kind of the co-founder do you need, we need to think about what are the main startup work directions. And we have product development and support, everything regarding building your actual product, business development and finances, everything regarding money and financials, operations in the company, and also everything regarding the marketing and sales. So distribute your roles and responsibilities across your team and find the skill set and expertise gap in your teams. If you're just a solo founder for the moment, just try to identify what skills you don't have, or maybe what kind of the expertise you don't have, in order to make sure the person you're trying to find having all of these skills and expertise which can complement to your teamwork. So there is no point to find someone doing exactly the same what you can do. So it's very important to find someone who is able to add some other skills and expertise to your team development. As we have these three directions, try to identify yourself. What are you confident with? Are you interested to focus on product development, or maybe marketing and sales, or finance and business development? And it doesn't mean that all these directions should be covered by co-founders. Some of these directions also can be covered with support of your mentors or advisors, or maybe some other business partners. So it's important to remember that your team is not only your co-founders, your team is all the people you engage with when you build or develop your startup. And how to find the co-founder? And it's a very actual question. And now, as we have some restrictions, or now when we are not able to travel, maybe we have some limited ability to go and join some events, it's becoming very actual. How to find a good co-founder, what to do, how to make it work. And My answer to that, based on my experience, you don't find them, you attract them. So first of all, if you're looking for a good co-founder, just make sure you reflect what you do and you also are able to inspire people with your startup idea. If you're looking for a good co-founder, first of all, try to ask the question to yourself, am I good co-founder myself? Am I a good person to work with, or am I a good person to deal with? And then before you're trying to find someone, it's very important to know that you are the pleasant person to deal with. As I mentioned before, if you're able to reflect by your personality that your startup idea, so people can be attracted by what you do, your passion, your energy, your motivation, and then they can join anything you do because they really love to deal with you. As I said before, you don't find your co-founder, you attract your co-founder, and it's day-to-day process, so it can happen anywhere. Now I would like to introduce our next special expert from Amsterdam, Järvinen. Marie, good evening. Can you introduce yourself, tell us a bit more about what you do? And now I would like to ask you, Marie, how actually to find a good co-founder and how to organize the teamwork, what to focus on in order to make a teamwork successful?
Yeah, thank you, Slava. That is a very good question. And so my background is in organizational psychology, and my name is Marie, by the way. And as we know, there's a lot of startups failing because of team dysfunction. And that's also kind of a sad thing because a lot of times that doesn't need to happen. So how do you find the co-founders that will stick with you? Then that is a real challenge. And I think you should really look for people who have complementary skills and also different ways of working than you do. So if you're a tech person, then maybe you need somebody who's creative. If you're the more creative type who likes to come up with the ideas, then maybe somebody who is more focused on the practical solutions and how to actually execute. So try to think about different kinds of people than you are. It could be background or personality or expertise or ways of thinking, different kinds of things. But what you really need to have in common is kind of what you believe in, like the core of the company, the vision, what you're trying to do together, and really spend a lot of time thinking about this, because even though it might sound the same, it might be a question of wording, and you might actually mean different things by the same words. So really spend time thinking about that and grab a coach to help you with that if needed. There are many people who work on that. And then the other thing that you really need to think about is the values. Like, what are the core values of your company? Because those are the foundation of your culture. And if you don't think about that, then often the culture becomes just a collection of the founders' habits or past traumas from the last startup they tried to found or another job that they had. So really kind of think about what kind of company do you want to have, and then you will have an easier time recruiting the right kinds of people and making decisions for your company in the future, and really kind of check back on that alignment as well. Like, are we still on the same path? Are we pulling in different directions? And actually something that's really important is the expectations. Like, what do I expect of the other founders, and what do I give to this company? What are our roles? And here we come to one of the big ones, is the leadership, because leading a startup of 3 people is probably very, very different than it will be when you're 10 or 100 or 10,000. So think about that. Like, do you want to be a leader of a big company in the future as well, or should you think about that already in the beginning? Like, what do we need in terms of that? Because it's not a given that the first CEO will be the always CEO as well. So those would be some of the tips that I would give to every startup thinking about like how to build a solid foundation for the company. And I think it's really important to also get help for this, because often startups get help for marketing or product market fit or funding or things like that, but also kind of think about these things consciously and don't just think that the team is going to just build itself or happen on the side somehow. So I'm available also. Feel free to reach out if any of these themes are things that you're struggling with, or you want to just not struggle with. Kind of think about the hard stuff before anything goes wrong.
Thank you very much, Marie, for your contribution to our discussion. It was amazing to have you tonight. It was Marie Järvinen from Amsterdam. Thank you very much, Marie, for staying with us and for your contribution to our workshop. And we are moving on. So first of all, speak a bit more in details. Please create a target profile of a co-founder candidate. So try to write down the role and responsibilities, what skills a candidate should have. Also, what kind of terms and conditions can fit to your current situation. Are you looking someone on equity salary? What type of work you're actually able to provide? Is it remote work or some kind of in-house work? Is it part-time or full-time? Try to create that description of the best candidate and the best person who potentially able to join your startup. And also, what is very important to ask your potential candidate interested to join and participate in your startup, why do you want to join our startup? Why actually someone interested? And there are multiple answers to that. Maybe someone is interested to work purely with you, and this is great. Or someone looking for an expansion of expertise and knowledge in your startup topic. Maybe someone is just attracted by direction or industry sector. So it's very important to understand what is the main reason your potential co-founder joining your startup team. So please feel free to ask that question to your potential startup candidates. And the more you get that understanding, it gives you much more confidence into your startup development. Where to find a co-founder and also mentor and potential advisor for your startup. First of all, it's important to take a look at your personal network, your clients and experienced professional, maybe you know across your network. And you can take a look at some accelerator programs in your university or maybe independent accelerators. You can find some potential co-founder in some communities, startup communities. And there are multiple events and conferences, even online, where you can come and see what's going on, and you can network and see if there are some right people to deal with. And actually that workshop is one of the possibilities to find the relevant people. So again, if you're interested, feel free to reach us out, find our community and see if you're able to find some co-founder for your tech startup. And also you can try to contact top leaders in the industry. You can see maybe some of them, they will be very interested to give back to some early stage startup founders and provide some advice or maybe to become a mentor. So please don't be shy, try to find some top leaders in the industry you work with, and then again try to contact these people, maybe ask for advice, try to engage with them, and trust me, if the people see the real dedication of your work, they see how you motivated to build your tech startup, they will be more than willing to help you with your startup. And here just a list of possible options where you can find potential co-founder. It can be LinkedIn, it can be multiple online events, like all of them. You can take a look at the multiple accelerator programs and the communities. Regarding the mentor and advisor, it's very important to get someone experienced in order to make sure you make the right steps, especially at the early stage of your startup development. Please try to create a portrait of your potential mentor and advisor, and also find someone who likes what you do and who likes your idea or maybe product already, and maybe some experienced mentors and advisors that will be very keen to support you because they really want to give back. They're really looking for some bright talents making something very interesting. So as I said, it's more about how do you make that first step, how do you approach people, and please don't be shy. It's very normal to reach people, to show your interest, to engage very politely with them, and they will be very happy and willing to support you. We are moving on, and what I also want to discuss with you is how to validate your teamwork. And before you make a really some strong agreements with your potential co-founder, please try to make sure you're able to validate your maybe very short teamwork process. First of all, if you met someone, try to agree and do something very simple, maybe during the first 1 week, and see how it goes. Maybe try to create the list of potential things need to be done and see how the communication process works and so on. And then if you like that, maybe you can agree on maybe next couple of weeks up to 1 month of teamwork and see how it goes. And also you need to make sure you really enjoy the process of dealing with these people. If you agree on that process and you really like the way it works and so on, then maybe you can, after 1 month or maybe a couple of weeks of your teamwork, you can discuss real terms and conditions, how you basically planning to work together. If it's, I'm purely talking about this equity approach. If you started your startup first and maybe you're sole founder now and you already got something, you can attract people to join your startup maybe on equity option. It's equity based on delivery of some tangible milestones and completing of some real tasks. And instead of promising someone, I don't know, 50% of your startup, maybe, especially if you developed something already yourself, maybe it's better to provide the equity option, saying, okay, if you build something together for next 6 months, you get a certain percent of equity. But for sure, if you make this agreement regarding the equity option or equity, it's important to make a formal agreement, to write it down, to figure out terms and conditions before you go to the investment stage. So you need to clarify and make sure you have a clear understanding and expectations of your equity structure and terms and conditions before you're trying to approach your potential investors. This is just example of roadmap of your teamwork. So it's very important just to create a clear timeline of the milestones and goals you're planning to achieve together. And also it's very important to have a clear distribution of these tasks and milestones across the major directions of startup development, as the finances, marketing, product development, business development, just to making sure you have all these milestones very clear, and also who is responsible for that particular milestone delivery and execution. Please make sure you have a deadline for each of your goals and plans and milestones, because it's very important just to make sure you have a clear roadmap and it goes on track. Regarding the team building, what is very important is that your potential co-founders can come from your mentors, from advisors, from maybe some freelancers and collaborators you deal with. Maybe someone working with you on the part-time, but then you can see the engagement, you can see the flow, and someone can become a full-time co-founder of your tech startup. It's very important just to see across all your network of people you deal with. And your clients, your investors and business partners, they also can join your startup team. It can be the great example if some of your clients, they can see your product or service, they can become very confident about your startup, and then they can become your potential co-founder. What is the sign of good co-founder? Well, it's someone who is able to take responsibility and you're not getting exhausted of waiting things done. So someone very extremely passionate to deliver tasks across your startup. Signs of good teamwork trial are two-way communication flow. When someone is taking initiative, taking the lead, making suggestions. When you don't have competitions inside of your team, you have the common goal. And also you have the continuous learning across your team. Everyone is willing to get new knowledge, to get more insight. And also when you don't need to chase people to get things done. It's very important just to make sure the process is productive and joyful. And the great example of the successful teamwork, if you cannot make something, co-founder is helping you to make it work. You're definitely looking for someone who is able to give you hands to support and make sure it's not the competition and it's not about making a ping pong between the responsibilities. It's about making sure you have the goal destination and you make it together. I just would like to show you that table example where actually you can very quickly create the spreadsheet and write down for each of your founders the list of tasks, including description, the deadline, and the outcome. And you also can create the targets, and also you can write down the actual outcome after it's been delivered. It's a very good approach to see what was developed, how it was delivered, if it was on time or it was behind the schedule. I highly advise, in order to validate your teamwork, to create that spreadsheet. Now I would like to introduce our next expert for tonight, Marco Poliafico. Marco is Eligent Accelerator mentor. Marco is already online with us. Marco, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. And please, if you can introduce yourself, tell us a bit more about what you do. And I would like to ask Marco, if you can share a bit of insights on how to organize your teamwork process in terms of project and task management, how to make sure everything goes on track, and how to organize teamwork in a tech startup. What would you advise?
Hi Slava, thank you for having me on board, and good evening to all of your audience. And okay, so your question is about project management. Before, very briefly, I will mention that I am, and I've been a project manager, and I've been working in the analytics sector and in the corporate world. But let's go straight away to your question. So project management is a tool to organize better our team. The answer is definitely yes, despite the fact that very often, and I do understand why, when we are in a startup, we have so many things to do. We think about the cash flow, and we think about finding the next investor or the next client. So really a lot of pressure, which is all understandable. But can we really afford to neglect project management? Let's look at it in a different way. If your question is how can we organize better the team? So let's look at what the project management gives us in terms of benefits. Very, very quickly, because there is not a lot of time to go into the details. But really, with project management, we can manage effectively our projects. And when we are in a startup, we cannot really afford to lose time. We need to use it in a very efficient way. We cannot waste resources, and I think mainly about money, but not only. And project management helps us in that. But then we can actually better manage people, which are the most important asset for us as a startup. We can improve our communication with them, and we can organize and manage the work stream and the monitoring the progress of the work. And likewise, we can introduce as early as possible, we have this opportunity, introducing sound business practices. And last but not least, let me mention that project management includes as well risk analysis and management. So I mentioned very briefly a few of the benefits that we have from project management and that enable us to really improve the way we manage our teams. And there are different things that we can do with these tools. I will mention really few of them just to conclude my contribution. Things like task management, stand-ups, managing the workflows, keeping track of time, and monitoring the productivity, or even actually many software nowadays, they offer the possibility to manage the payrolls as well. So let me wrap up with a short quote from the most famous book for strategy written by Sun Tzu, The Art of War. He says basically in a sentence, the victorious army plans first and then go to war. A bit of food for thoughts, and hopefully with project management we can get better ready, for getting ready to win. Enjoy project management and good evening. Thanks, Slava. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Marco. One more time, it was Marco Poliafico. He's a mentor of Eligent Accelerator program from the UK, London. Thank you very much, Marco, and we are moving on to the next topic. So let's speak about the product development. What is important to understand here is that technology is not consistent. It's a day-to-day evolution. That's why it's very important to understand that you select the relevant technologies for your tech startup development. And how to make it, it's definitely a subject of research. So if you're about to start your startup development, please make research, try to Google, try to talk to your potential developers, or maybe make a research, read some articles about what are the recent technologies can be used for your particular startup. If it's a web development or it's a software development, it's IoT or blockchain. So again, try to find some relevant technologies for your tech startup and get some different opinions on the same question. So in order to build a proper tech infrastructure, it's important to have a clear understanding regarding what technologies are going to be used for your startup development. Also, it's very important to understand your development and expansion plan. What kind of the versions you're going to have? Is it going to be mobile app or desktop app or web app or something different? And also, in order to build a proper tech infrastructure, it's important to use the lean methodology, which means you're not trying to build something for 1 year up front. You make some quick phases of development, sprints, and you test the results of these phases. So you make something simple, then you show it to your potential users and customers, get the feedback, and then you create the further plan of updates or further development. So please make sure that technology you're going to use is relevant, is up to date, it's aligned to your development and expansion plan. You don't spend too much time building something yourself. You go into the people and talk to them and see what they think about your product. How you can make a technology research? So you can go to multiple resources, like you can go and find it via academic research for innovation and technologies, via Google Scholar. Also, you can go to GitHub. It's the largest community of developers. You can find some libraries, some open source solutions, and see what's already developed. Maybe you can use some parts of existing solutions in order to build your product. Also, you can go to Quora or some relevant and similar platforms where you can ask a question and get reply regarding the technology, possible solutions, and again, get a bit clearer picture. There is a platform called Stack Overflow, where again you can ask multiple questions regarding the technology, firms, and get a bit more insights on that. And also there are multiple resources where you can read some newspapers, magazines regarding the recent technologies, trends, in order again to understand what kind of technologies can be a good decision for yourself. And as I said before, please try to talk to multiple people or read multiple sources in order to understand it. You have comprehensive overview and you have multiple ways to build something. And then in the future, maybe you can decide some further improvements and you can see what are other possible options. And also after they can see what are the other multiple options to build that. When I mentioned about understanding your development and expansion plan, please create a list of questions to your CTO or your tech development team, and please discuss. If you're just about to build your very simple MVP, try to create the list of possible features going to be added later on, and how a selected tech solution flexible for adding new features. So each technology has multiple limitations, so it's very important to understand that the selected technology will give you ability to implement these new features of your product later on. Also, please discuss with your development team what platforms you're going to use and have for your tech startup. Are you building an iOS app or Android, or you build a smart TV app or web app, something completely different? If you're planning to develop some app version for multiple devices and platforms, please discuss it with your development team beforehand. And also new markets regarding the languages. Are you planning to add the new languages to your platform or your product or service? How easy it will be to add the new language to your platform, because it can be a possible limitation of your expansion plan. So it's very important just to understand how complex it is, or maybe it's very simple. It's very important to discuss your scalability of user base and customer growth. If you build something which can work well for maybe 100 customers, if the technology you're going to use will be good enough to be used for 1 million customers or users. So please make sure the technology and the infrastructure you're trying to build is scalable enough and also affordable, because you can realize that actually scalability leads to an increase of expenses of your tech infrastructure, but it's important to make sure it's optimized and you're not overspending the money for your tech infrastructure. So please discuss all of these questions with your tech development team and your CTO, and please know all of these answers beforehand. And technology selection tips. How to select the right technology. Please check upcoming trends in tech. Please select technology for tomorrow, not for today, because the customer expectations are growing up regarding the speed, regarding the user experience of your platform, product or service, and also how tech solution applicable for customers. Please make sure the technology won't be a reason of sale or usage reject, that you're able to reach your potential customers which use the certain devices or platforms. And technology perfection shouldn't be the main focus, because the main focus is the value proposition for your customers and for your users. They just need to get something for their needs, and it should solve the problem. So the technology itself is not the key factor of your product success. Please make sure the technology you select is the cost effective, because you will have the multiple updates and changes in your development. It's probably going to be a long journey, so please make sure your tech infrastructure is not taking too much money, especially at the early stage of your business. And please try to find the optimized technologies for your expansion plan. This is very important in order to keep your expenses at minimum. Thank you very much. That was our first part of workshop, and we now just about to start our startup pitch example from our Eligent Accelerator Fellow. Please stay with us, and we will come back in a few minutes with a startup example of pitch. Stay tuned. Now I would like to introduce Nikolay Prokopiev, founder of Paywoke startup from Luxembourg. So Nikolay, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Please introduce yourself and make your startup pitch.
Hello everyone, my name is Nikolay Prokopiev and I'm the founder and CEO of Paywoke, a Luxembourg-based fintech startup company. In the current situation of COVID-19, it has been revealed that organizations across the globe are not quite ready to provide a complete set of their services in a digital manner due to complex integration, high cost per digital transaction, and the ever-changing regulatory landscape. And to address those challenges, we have developed Paywoke, an all-in-one B2B SaaS platform that works as a service aggregator. Some of the benefits that this platform will bring to our customers is single and seamless integration that erases the complexity and reduce the implementation cost, best price per digital transaction, as well as the latest technologies and best service providers available on the market. As features, this platform includes an SDK catalog and the developer sandbox, white label solution for mobile and web, as well as self-service portal. The market size where Paywoke is currently operated is estimated on approximately 10 billion euro, and the forecast is to grow to 45 billion euro in 6 years' time. Our initial markets we are targeting are Luxembourg, Switzerland, UK, US, and the Middle East due to the high concentration of banks, financial institutions, and fintech startups. Our business model is quite straightforward. It includes one-time setup fee, an annual fee, and fee per digital transaction, depends on the service our customers are going to use. Some of our competitors we have identified in the KYC or open banking are names like Tesobet, TrueLayer, Jumio, Acuity Force-Stop, Eversign, and so on. However, all of them are offering one or two services, which is the one we are planning to offer, and at Paywoke we are positioning to cover all those services simultaneously. Our competitive advantages, as already mentioned, we are acting as a service aggregator, so we are combining the best service providers and the most advanced digital services on the market into a single platform. Our company is based in Luxembourg, which has a political stable landscape, and a few countries in the world which still holds credit rating AAA, as well as, last but not least, Tier 4 data centers. Another competitive advantage is our team. Having more than 18 years of experience within the financial industry and a proven track of delivery of successful records projects for organizations like ING, UBS, UNICEF, and so on. Our go-to-market strategy includes both networking events and inbound marketing approach. Some of them is like content marketing, gated content, email marketing campaigns, and social media. Our forecast is that within year 5, we will be able to reach a revenue of approximately 10 million and a net profit of close to 5 million. Last but not least, please meet the team, myself, Nikolay Prokopiev, Alexander Yovchev, and Nikola Tanev. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, Nikolay, for your startup pitch. Now I would like to ask our special experts to give a contribution and give a feedback regarding your startup pitch. Thank you. Now I would like to ask Matt Black his opinion on the startup we listened and watched just a few minutes before.
Hi, thank you, Nikolay. That was really interesting. Just to give some context on this. So I was a keynote on the UK FinTech Summit, largest FinTech gathering late last year in London. And in fact, I spoke on how the market around open banking is evolving, and very specifically around to the investors and family offices in the room about how we can identify the next big unicorns in the fintech space. I think we estimated that there might be about 30 odd unicorns coming, evolving over the next 2 years in this space based on historical records. And we were talking a little bit about how we can find exactly who they are, because, you know, in my business and what I do is I get a lot of inquiries, and I'm looking myself for where the next big unicorns are to invest in them and nurture them and take them forward. And due diligence, you know, to be open about it, I also have a major stake in a challenger bank at the moment, and we're building into the investment bank space, and we'll be utilizing much the same type of technology that you're proposing. So I do have some insider knowledge on this sector. So I like where you're going. I really like what the system looks like. I like the positioning as far as the business model goes in the reducing compliance issues. That's a major hurdle for a lot of businesses, and streamlining that process, and you're positioning yourself as a platform. So as there's a lot of rising competitiveness in this space, you are putting yourself kind of slightly to the side. I don't know, you didn't point to any major competitors in your sector, so I presume you're thinking that you're all alone. I'm not sure if that's true, and I'd like to see a slide a little bit more about competitive analysis there. What I did like as well is your positioning in Luxembourg, and you're targeting the Luxembourg, Swiss and the UK markets. I myself get numerous amounts of decks from all over the world for people wanting to set up within the UK fintech sector, and there's a lot of support for that. In fact, my offices in Canary Wharf have a FinTech Accelerator at the same office. So I'm very well connected to that space. And I think it is a really good call for you to concentrate on those markets in the early stage before you tackle anything bigger like the US. All in all, I was pretty happy with everything. I myself didn't see your current traction. I would have liked to have seen what traction that you've got already. I mean, I saw that classic hockey stick graph on, you know, where you're going and what your future projections are like. I mean, that's just, you know, that's great. But what interests me more is what you've done so far, what traction, what evidence you've got that what you're building is in demand, and who's signed up ready to take that on. I also missed, for some reason, your investment piece, like how much equity you're offering for how much investment. I presume you are wanting investment. You should ask me for investment. I would be interested in investing if I knew how much you wanted, and yeah, it'd be nice to hear that information as well. And if you are looking, please ask me after this, and we'll have a chat. That's pretty much it. Great presentation all in all. I could nitpick, you know, 1,000 little things, but overall, I think it's got potential. So thanks.
Thank you very much, Matt. It was the feedback from Matt Black regarding the startup pitch. Now I would like to ask Sharon for startup feedback. Sharon, if you give a feedback regarding the startup pitch.
Okay, thank you. Excellent pitch. Some real detail that came across there within that deck. Particularly impressed with your market share data. So you can see exactly, any investor can really see where there is the possibility within that marketplace. So I think a couple of things from me would be to maybe slow down a little bit the pace. There's quite a lot of information really to take in, especially if you're not coming from the open banking or the banking sector. It's quite complex information. So I think what I would do is maybe take away some of the text within the presentation and make it more bullet point, because we're listening to you as well as we're reading the screen. So I think that's just a good tip with something where it's a complex product as well. You clearly know the market very well. I think questions I would have for you is, you've got your target markets up there. Which ones are you going to go after first? Have you identified where there might be actually government incentives, as I know there are within the UK open banking sector? There's a dedicated government incentive around growing the open banking sector here. So it would be interesting to see what your go-to-market approach is across each of those countries that you've identified there, and to be going after the one that's actually going to be the most profitable in that, you know, first year period as well. So yeah, all in all, I think excellent.
I would like to say thank you very much to our experts for the feedback they gave regarding the startup pitch we just had a few minutes before. Thank you very much. Now we are starting the second part of the workshop. Now, I would like to ask the question, what is the hardest thing in building a tech startup? It's sales. It's extremely hard to make a sale for any startup, and for sure when you're just about to get your first customers, maybe you don't have a very clear strategy and approach, and you need to make it all one step by step. It's important to get your startup sales process as quick as possible, even at your startup idea. When you go to your potential customers and users, try to pitch them, I'm not saying to make a hard sale, but try to demonstrate what your product does and what real value it provides to potential users and customers. Please try to start your sales process as quick as possible. And technology is a tool to solve a problem, but it's not a tool to make business. So even you created a great, outstanding product, it's not going to be well known from day one. You still will have to make a lot of efforts in order to reach your potential customers. So please make sure that you need to create a real sales strategy, a real marketing strategy in order to be able to promote and sell your product successfully. Before actually we speak about the business and marketing strategy, it's very important to clarify that your product can be developed for B2B sector and also for B2C sector, or can be for both. Please try to identify what is the relevant market for your particular startup. Is it B2B or B2C? Definitely B2B market has own specific in comparison to B2C. B2B market has in general longer sale process. It will take time to convince companies and businesses to try and buy your product or service. It also can have a limited scalability, because if you deal with the particular industry or sector, it can limit the usage or potential application of your tool or service. Also, success of your startup development, sales, and expansion of your startup depends on a professional network you have. So it's very important to know someone from the industry you're trying to deal with in order to understand that you have relevant people, relevant contacts in the field. But what is good about the B2B sector, that there are so many industry-related problems that also it can be profitable from day one, from first customer. As soon as you found someone who really needs your product or service, it can become profitable from day one. Also, you need to make less marketing expenses, because as soon as you reach some people from professional event or conference, or you engage with some relevant focus or target groups online, it will be much more easy to find these potential people. There is a less competition on B2B market. If you really got a good product, you don't have to compete, because you usually, if you found your niche, it can be less competitive than in B2C market. But also, you can try to identify maybe the B2C market can be the very good fit for you, but the disadvantages of that B2C market that it's very low loyalty to new product. If you ask yourself how many new apps you installed today for your device, for me it's 0, because I'm not feeling excited about to install new products or new apps anymore. And that can be a big problem in order to convince new customers and users to even to try your product or service. Regarding the reaching B2C customers, it has higher marketing expenses in comparison to B2B. So sometimes the marketing expenses are so high, so it can be very tough to get these customers. Also, it's harder to define the business models because in a B2C sector, the users, they have less loyalty to pay. They're willing to try products for free, but they're not so loyal to use the paid products in comparison to businesses. So again, it can be very tricky to define some relevant business model for you. At the same time, it has high scalability. The B2C sector can have unlimited user base of your product or service. Sometimes no industry experience needed in order to create something for very wide audience in B2C sector. And also it can be very short sale process, because as soon as someone likes your product or service, they can make instant immediate purchase or maybe a request to get paid version of your product or service. So the life cycle of sales is much shorter in comparison to B2B. You need to define what would be the good fit for you. What is very important to define for B2B or B2C market in connection to your product or service. Please make sure that you found the right market for it, or for your product and service. It can be a market regarding the region, the country, some area, or also it can be the market regarding the age group, the income, a social group. Try to identify what the market you're trying to reach. It's very important to dedicate some time to make research about your market and your target audience. Please try to understand what should be the platforms and what are the solutions your target customers need. What is the specific of target audience, age, income, some social groups, some interest, where they are, what they do, how do they buy products, and what is the competition landscape, what are the competitors exist on the market, what they do already, what they do very good, and what they do not very good. Please sure also the market size is big enough for scaling your startup. Even you created a very good project and service, if the market size is very small, it's not going to be possible to scale up your business in 10 times or maybe 100, and it will be very challenging to attract investors if your market size is very small. Alright, and please make a research about your competition. Who are your competitors? It's very actually good sign if you have competition on the market. That means that the market is there, people or businesses, they need your product and service because there are some existing products or services on the market. What is important is just to identify how you're going to be different, what are your unique selling points which will be different in your particular product or service. If you can create a competitor's map and see how do you stand across your competition, it will be the good understanding for your customers and for yourself of what is the difference between your product and product of other companies. Please make sure you found your own niche on the market. This is very important. As I mentioned before, please try to create that competitor's map for your particular case in order to see how do you stand across the competition. Now I would like to introduce our next special guest tonight, Sharon Wright. Sharon is an expert in marketing and she's already online with us. Sharon, I would like to ask you, what do you think startup founders should focus on regarding the marketing strategy, how to make it work, and especially during these current challenging times?
Hi Slava, thanks for that. Just to introduce a bit of my background, and I come from the corporate sports industry, so I've spent 17 years working for big brands, Nike and Adidas, and I've also taken products from concept to international launch. Having left the industry a few years ago, I decided that I wanted to bring that experience and bring that into the consulting world. And because of that, it's been a really interesting journey working with some tech startups and also continuing to work with global brands. And I think what I see as the one of the areas that I would concentrate on when if you're at that point where you're getting your minimal viable product together, is it's actually key to start looking and drilling down and making some insights into the area that you're operating in. So how much is the market going to be worth? Who is that customer? What's the gap within that industry? Who are your competitors? What are they pricing at? What is their key messaging? What are the channels that they're operating on? And I think when you start to take that time to really do the research, you're going to bring together a much more solid plan when you do get to launch, because that's going to give you insights where the area that you're obviously going to be tweaking most is going to be that product and that product development as you move through each different stage. So research is absolutely key. It's key when I come to doing any marketing strategy for any client, and I would say that's the key area for you to focus on right now.
It was Sharon Wright from the UK. Sharon is Eligent Accelerator mentor, so thank you very much one more time. Let's speak a bit about the business models. In order to find your business models, for sure, it's very good to take a look at their competitors to see what business models they have and how do they approach customers. It can be the freemium, it can be premium, it can be pay per purchase, or it's a commission fee. But what is important that it's great if you can find some multiple revenue streams for your tech startup in order to make sure that you're able to secure your position, and if some revenue stream due to uncertainty or the current situation or lockdown is not consistent or sustainable enough, you can also rely on some other revenue streams. So please try to find some multiple streams of your revenue. How to validate your business model? So please try to make first sale as quick as possible and make sure you got someone interested to try and see your product and maybe someone willing to pay for that product. So please try to make your first sale. And what is important is to build sustainable marketing and sales strategy and channels in order to make sure you can convert the first sale into the stream of sales and can convert this into sustainable flow of upcoming leads and upcoming target customers. And also it's important to get the pipeline of these customers, and it should be sustainable. It's important to validate scalability to make sure that the market size is big enough, and by having the same marketing strategy approach and by having these certain sales channels, you're able to scale up your sales with existing sales channels. So what is very important here, the validation of your business model is when you're able to create sustainable growth track record of startup progress. If you can realize that for the last couple of months you generate sales and it's growing and there are no ups and downs there, so it's a great example that you have a sustainable growth of track record, at least for a couple of months. How to create a sales strategy. It's very important to focus on figures to see how it looks like in your spreadsheet of your cash flow plan and how do you see your sales plan. And it's very important to create it very pragmatic, so please don't be too optimistic and maybe too pessimistic as well. Also, it can be the good option if you create multiple plans, maybe a pessimistic plan, the normal one, and optimistic one. So you can see that if something went wrong, you're still profitable, you're still having the good track record of sales. So please don't be too optimistic and make it pragmatic. Also, it's very important to tie your plan to the timeline and to certain KPIs, how many sales you're planning to reach till certain deadline. Please write it down and create the sales plan and the plan regarding your income. This is just like an example of cash flow projections for a year, where you can see how many sales is planned to be each month, when you're aiming to break even in your startup. For sure, it's very important to see that your break-even is happening not in 5 years' time, but something between 1 and 2 years can be good, because if you're trying to approach your potential investors they also are looking to see how quick you can get back, you can generate some profit for the company. So it's very important to make sure you're able to grow quickly and your break-even point is not happening in 5 years' time. But what is very important is also to do not showcase too optimistic figure. If you say that you break even in 1 month's time is probably not realistic. So try to make it very realistic and maybe a bit lower than you expect, because it's not always go by plan. And then by having that spreadsheet, it's becoming very clear how it will look like in 6 months' time regarding your sales and other expenses. So what is important to see in that spreadsheet is that you have the good balance between your expenses and your sales. So please try to create this cash flow plan for your startup, even you're at idea stage, to see how realistic your projections and how quick you can get some profit for your tech startup. Now I would like to introduce our next special guest of the workshop, Mark Lamas from Porto. Mark is the senior professor at Polytechnic Institute of Porto. Mark, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. I would like to ask Mark, please introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about what you do. And also, maybe you can give some advice on how to find a good business model for a tech startup. Any advice on that?
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me in this workshop, Slava. It has been a great workshop so far with great content and excellent speakers. I will start, as you asked, by doing my home pitch. A sort of what I've been doing and what I've done during my professional life. I see myself as an entrepreneur. I've founded several companies so far, and for, I don't know, the last 20 years or so, I'm also connected to the academic world, teaching and researching, mostly on education and management, but in particular on entrepreneurship and business models. Today's a theme for us to talk about. And now, getting back to your interesting questions, regarding business models, I think that in fact there isn't only one business model within a startup. It's all about having a constant change. It's all about keeping up what's happening around us. And it should be always evolving along the time and always having the customers as their main focus. So business models should be on customers besides anything else. Not about our product, our service, it's about customers. I also would like to highlight what really matters today. It's to have a purpose, okay? To have a why. We are not talking about business to business or business to consumers, trying to understand what we are doing, to whom we are doing, okay? So getting back to customers, getting back to segmentation, okay? So we should do it. Keep on investing in great products or services, but most of all, try to understand what your customer wants, okay? And try to build a relation, not only a supplier-customer relation, okay? Much more than that. We must go further, okay? We must try to create a community, creating a relation that will be still a relation in 10 years or 15 years, okay? And that would drive us to keep on changing and adapting and getting our business model better and better every day.
Mark, thank you very much for joining us one more time. It was Mark Lamas from Porto, and we are moving on to our next part. And what your sales strategy should include? It should include pricing strategy, some channels, and customer calls. How much it costs you to reach your potential visitor to your website, someone willing to fill the form to request some product or service, and how much it costs you to get a real customer, and how much money you get out of it. Regarding your sales strategy, it's important to know what is your margin, what is your profit per customer, and what is the customer life cycle. If your customer is buying the product or service once, or maybe your customer paying on monthly basis, or maybe or yearly. So please try to identify what's your sales strategy and what's your cash flow plan. When to make your first sale? And my answer to that, at idea stage. The quicker you do it, the better, because then you can realize maybe what you're trying to propose is not 100% relevant to your potential customer, and then maybe you can make update in your business model, in your sales process, in your pitching. So please try to make your sale as quick as possible. So when you're trying to make your first sale at the idea stage, why it's actually very good? Because no investment needed, you can get a very quick feedback from your potential customers, you don't have operational costs, and you have actually saving 6 months of development time, and it's very quick yes or no test from people giving you real-time feedback if they willing to try your product or service or not. So that pitch at the idea stage can be the good starting point to attract your user, co-founder, mentor, advisor, or even investor. So please try to practice and make it as quick as possible. How to make first sale? I would say it's not about how amazing your product, it's about how it helps to solve the pain of customer. Before actually showcasing what the product does and how amazing it is, try to identify what are the pain points of customers. Try to listen very carefully. What is it about? What are the challenges your potential customers existing have? Then you can understand when you're trying to showcase your product or service, you will know which features to show in which order and what to focus on during your presentation. Please try to listen very carefully about what your product can do for needs of your potential customers or users. And regarding the sales process definitely should include sales strategy, including the pricing strategy, channels, advertising campaigns, all these targets and KPIs. Then you should have a real sales process with the channels launch, campaign running, leads engagement, promotions. Also need to have a sales team for sure, CRM tools. And then you need to focus on deals and clients in order to make sure you're making deals, you have the pipeline of potential users and customers, you make sales, and you use the relevant tools in order to track that. What is very important, that you have the flow of the feedback and testimonials, you hear and listen very carefully what your customers say about user experience, about the customer experience, and how you can make it better. And then it's very important to reevaluate and also check your targets and KPIs, and also to make sure you're able to evaluate your targets on weekly, a monthly and quarter basis, and also you have some relevant KPIs tools to track it and also to check in real time. Please try to make sure you have that managed before you go in long run. And as I said, it's real-time evaluation process on almost daily basis when you need to check what's going on and how you can improve everything you do across your team, and for sure across activities relevant to your customer engagement, customer support, and also sales process. And now I would like to introduce our next expert of the workshop, Seena Saini from the UK. Seena, good evening. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a bit more about what you do. Seena is the mentor of Eligent Accelerator program, but she runs multiple activities. I would like to ask how to organize finances in a tech startup and how to organize sales processes in a tech startup. What to focus on, and what do you think is important regarding the finance in a tech startup? Your advice.
Hi, my name is Seena. My name is Seena, and I've been a mentor for Eligent Club, and I also run my own startup. And my startup, so through my own journey, I've gone through my own highs and lows over the last 20 years of building companies. So I've built about 4 companies so far, and about to start my 5th company. So far I've been in the... Now I'd like to tell you 5 key points. Well, overall, the key things in a company is metrics. So to start an organization, you should reflect the various things and strategies and aspects of an organization: finance, marketing, competition, product development, standards, and customer requirement and expectation. These metrics are critical in an organization, and you should be measuring them as soon as you possibly can. Going on to 5 tips on finance, managing your cash flow is number 1. Make sure financial projections and you look at various scenarios consistently is number 2, because you're constantly pivoting. Point 3, properly manage your accounting. Your accounting function needs to be at its top, because of course, you're talking to governments, you're talking to R&D tax, you're trying to raise money. All the financial elements that you need, they are going to want to see your historic accounts. You need to have your accounting up to date always. Always negotiate with your suppliers before signing any contract. there is always room for negotiation, always. And as a startup, you are on a string budget. Finally, focus on quality clients. You do not want to worry about clients that aren't going to pay you on time, aren't going to respect you as a supplier. So don't worry about the people who aren't respecting your time. Going on to sales and partnership, for the 5 top tips to understand on partnership. From partnerships, think about the opportunity it will bring to your company. Look at their metrics. What are their metrics? Ask them about their metrics before going into the partnership with them. Point 2, keep the barriers to entry as low as possible. Remove them, because they are going to become a point where you cannot go into that partnership, or the sales will not come in as fast enough. Point 3, solve the resellers' challenges first and then focus on the clients, because if you can't focus on removing the challenges from the reseller, you will never get to the end clients, because you're not solving the problem for the reseller to get you onboarded. Point 4, think about marketing. Online first strategy is critical today. You can see it in the industry, supermarket chains in your local area. People who are structurally ready are actually having access to their market. Last point, understand the margins and give your business model. Understand the margins with the reseller. Do you have the business model, or does it not exist? So you really must look at the business model with the reseller and how you can make it work. This is the summary of all my 5 points for finance and for sales. Thank you very much.
It was Seena Saini, Seena's Eligent Accelerator mentor. So one more time, thanks for your contribution, and we are moving on now. Is it required to make sales by founder? There are a lot of debates if yes or no, and my answer to that, based on my experience, that as a founder of your startup, you're the best person to present your project and service in front of the audience and in front of potential users. So my answer is yes, for sure. It's very important to be able to sell your product service yourself. Then you can hire, or maybe you attract some amazing, successful sales managers who can scale up your sales process, who can make it quicker, maybe more efficient. But initially, especially at idea stage, you should be the main salesperson doing that. And you need to see and hear what people say from first session, from first meeting. Please try to make sure you make it. Before making any sales process by a founder, it's important to get a confidence, it's important to get a pitching practice. You can get a public speaker coach in order to practice your speaking, your language, and also to know all the tech side and the figures and all this information about how your product works and the service works. And what is very important is just be very honest to your potential target customers. Please don't try to present something better than it is. Please try to make sure you have honest approach to your target customers. And please know your strong points. Know what exactly your product or service does well and why it's better than products of competitors, and why it can be beneficial for your target customers to try it out. One more time, founder should be able to sell own product. So please make sure you have that managed for your startup. Now I would like to introduce our next special guest tonight, David Odier. David, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I would like to ask David, please introduce yourself, tell us a bit more about your activities and what you do. And assume like you're an expert in growth strategy and growth hacking. Please tell us a bit more how to organize that sustainability and growth track record of a startup, what to focus on and what to do. Please, your thoughts.
Hey Slava, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak at one of Eligent's events. Quick background about myself. My name is David. I'm the founder of Launch Mappers, which is a growth marketing consultancy powered by freelancers. What we do is that we help companies create and implement growth strategies early on in their business, and our specialty is in go-to-market strategies and marketing. Prior to that, I was the head of international growth at a VC-backed startup. More specifically, it was a tech marketplace. So, it's a very interesting challenge when it comes to growth, balancing the chicken and egg. So that nurtured a lot me as a professional. And today I'm going to speak to you a bit more about growth marketing, which is different from growth hacking actually. And I think we can start from there. Growth hacking by definition is you trying to have a quick win, trying to create a hack. Which sometimes is a good thing because sometimes there are clear opportunities. For instance, if you want to reach out to people who have attended a meetup or something like this. But what successful companies are doing, they are doing growth marketing. And growth marketing is the ability to systemize a marketing strategy and take luck out of the equation because you're focusing on data and actual facts. So it's a bit different. And growth marketing is actually the natural evolution of marketing in recent years. You can see marketing like as an history, like as an history book. It started in the 50s with the advertisement agencies very much focused on branding and aspirational messages. Then it evolved in the early 2000s when digital marketing came in with, the ability to do search ads, the ability to do SEO. And now marketers and companies realize that this is just not enough and that you need to have a strong brand, you need to do digital marketing, but this needs to fit into an overall process. And that's what growth marketing is. It's the ability to control your funnel from generating awareness to generating sales. And the process is longer than the gesture I'm doing on screen. It's much wider than this. So yeah, this is what we define when it comes to growth marketing, and making it sustainable is a key component to a startup's success because the lack of sustainability is what will make you fail. So to come back to Slava's question, how do we define sustainable? Sustainable, in my opinion, is the ability to generate positive unit economics on your customers. So what we mean by positive unit economics, it means that your customer lifetime value needs to be at least twice as more as your cost of acquisition. And to define your cost of acquisition, you need to include obviously marketing costs, but people costs as well. Otherwise, you're just going to have a biased vision of what you do. If it requires 3 people to do your marketing and you think you have, a cost per click and cost per acquisition on Google by £5, you need to add these people's salaries into the equation because otherwise you're not seeing things clearly. And when it comes to the customer's long lifetime value, the general rule of thumb is to use 18 months, So if you have a subscription business, in order to take churn into account, think as if, customers would stay with you for 18 months.
Thank you very much, David. It was David Odier from London. Thank you very much for your contribution. And now we are moving on. How to increase profitability of your startup? And some startups, they really are looking for new customers. They're trying to do very intensive expansion of marketing, of sales process and so on. But if you already got some customers, it's very important also just to focus on increase of average bill. Maybe you can provide to your existing customers who already got the loyalty to your product or service. You can increase maybe the product service value. Maybe you can provide new features, new tool to them in order to make sure they're willing to try or maybe have more products or services provided from you or your company. It's very important to focus on average bill increase. Also, the customer life cycle. If you create a loyalty program in order to stimulate people to come back to your company, to use your product or service more frequently, that will increase the revenue. So please try to think if you can create a loyalty program for your startup and for your product and service. Now I would like to introduce our special expert tonight from Munich, Christine Falow. Christine, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Please, if you can introduce yourself, tell us a bit more about your activities and what you do. And I would like to ask you how to make negotiations during your sales process in a startup well, how to make sure you're not underestimating the value of your product or service, and how actually to make the sales happen, especially when you deal with maybe some big organizations, some corporate world. So can you share your insight?
Thank you, Slava, and thank you for having me in this great event. My name is Christine Falow, and a big hello from Germany. My background is strategic procurement. I had been working for global corporations like Levy, Henkel, or Boch for over 20 years, and was in leading functions in strategic procurement, innovation management, and innovation processes. So how does this help you? I consult startups and give them really valuable insights about working with purchasing. What are these people all about? What are their goals? What are their insights? What are they expecting from you? So this is one very critical thing. It's like dating. So don't you want to know about your date before you date? So this is really the top insight from a strategic procurement director, which I've been. And the second big part is actually how to be well prepared, because you typically have really all the insights about your products and you know what it's good for, you're well prepared on how this functions and what the benefits for the companies are. But what is also very important is to really research what the company is doing and if this product is helping them for cost reduction, is it a process improvement? What kind of benefits does this product really bring? Because this is a very good argument in your negotiation later. Also research the person you are meeting with. Is this a person, he's just fresh in procurement and probably studied before and wants to be a manager soon? It will be a very tough one because he or she needs a very big success story. Has this person been working maybe in a company you talked to already? So then this person might have insights about you already, very critical point. So I can tell you many, many insights about which kind of facts you should gather before you go into that meeting, how to structure these facts and which facts exactly you will use for your benefits later. You don't use all the facts. So, and what kind of strategy you best take to really negotiate, and what kind of tactics are appropriate and which not, and how to have finally a successful deal.
Thank you very much, Christine. It was a Christine Fellow from Munich, Germany. So thank you very much one more time for joining us tonight and your amazing contribution to the discussion. And we are moving on now. So what is important to remember that you are the ambassador of your startup. Try to make sure that you reflect the philosophy, the values of your tech startup, and your pitch to the audience, if it's a sales pitch or just like investment pitch, starts from the moment when you open the door, the moment when you come into the stage, the moment when you come into your audience. Please try to make sure that your appearance aligned with your startup. That's very important to success of your startup. And now I would like to invite special guest from London, UK, Emilia Gyoerk, who knows everything about investments. Emilia, good evening. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight. Please, if you can introduce yourself, tell us a bit more about what you do and when it's actually the right time to approach investors. If you're building a tech startup, at idea stage, might be when you're building an MVP or later on when you make a first sale.
I'm Emilia Gyoerk, and I spent the last several years in financial services, including the European Central Bank and Moody's Investor Services, before I became an investment manager at Flow Group, which invests in early stage tech startups. We tend to come in the seed stage, so once a company has an MVP on the market, ideally paying customers for strong signs of satisfaction is the sweet spot where we personally usually step in. And we invest across multiple different sectors. That's included ad tech, fintech, but also SaaS solutions and consumer-facing products. So in terms of your questions where you were discussing what is a good stage to consider the fundraising options, I think broadly you have to start thinking about it in terms of understanding what kind of founder you want to be from an investor standpoint. So I think broadly these fall into two buckets. where you can have on one hand the founders who bring on a larger fundraising amount earlier on. So when they have a strong idea, product market fit, a product on the market, with the idea of building a longer runway, allowing for more flexibility to respond to market changes, even unforeseen things, so say another wave of COVID, something else happening, but also allowing flexibility to respond to customer feedback, other product development sides, with the downside potentially being that you'd have to give out a bit more of the equity. While on the other hand, there's another approach of following kind of a more root-feed approach, so where you're taking in smaller amounts on a more ongoing basis, with the benefit, of course, being that probably you can get away with less equity being distributed to investors, but it adds to the restriction of being much more conscious of the money that you keep in the bank, the flexibility that you have to respond to market events. So those are the things, kind of the micro categories, but then it also depends a bit on the stage of your startup and the sector that you're in. So depending on how far you have developed the product using bootstrapping or a family of friends, and what kind of product that has allowed you to build, and the tech requirements or the funding requirements that you have. So if you're in the more kind of AI or deep tech side, it's likely that you'll need a larger fundraising amount than if it's something that's simpler to deliver as an MVP to the market and gain that further traction to allow the fundraising to come in as a growth accelerator rather than an enabler. So then in terms of where that fits in, kind of where I step in as a mentor as well, and through Eligent Club is, I like to personally step in as an investor once there's already a product on the market, there's signs of traction, ideally paying customers, but really a solid product on the market. And then considering there from the fundraising steps. And I'm happy to take that discussion with the listeners and new members at Eligent. So in the stage of having kind of an initial product out there, an MVP ready, and then considering what kind of fundraising pathways that you can build from there. Again, it can be quite sector agnostic as well. I've invested in many different sectors, so very happy to take that discussion further with you there. Thanks a lot, Slava.
Emilia, thank you very much for your contribution to the discussion. We spoke about the investments, when to come and talk to investors. Thank you very much one more time, and we are moving on. And now I would like to invite Adele Botha for our summary speech to finalize our workshop tonight. Adele, can you give an advice to early stage startup founders, what they should focus on, how to make a first step, and how to do not be scared of failures on the journeys, how to be able to stand up and go for it no matter what?
Extremely valuable question. And I think this touches on the side of the entrepreneurial mindset. And I do a lot of entrepreneurial mindset. My initial actual qualification is as a sports psychologist. So this is where we really look at high performance within teams, which is very applicable to entrepreneurs as well. And my advice for that would be it's going to be a very tough journey. I think a lot of the time we have a set of core values that we say, okay, the reason why we want to do a startup is because we want freedom, which is normally one of the first core values that you will hear any entrepreneur say. We want freedom. We want quality of our own time within that. And we're passionate, right? We're creative. We want to solve problems. And then the reality kicks in and you realize that, it's one thing going out and developing a product and you're so passionate about it and it's so creative, but it's a total different thing to run a business. And especially the areas that not so nice to do and that you might not be particularly good at, or might not even have particular experience in. And this is where the mindset comes in. I think we as entrepreneurs have to learn to let go. We need to move away from perfectionism. There's no such thing. I think if we can shift our mindset to having a learning experience, this is where the core element lies. Even when and this applies whether we test and validate our business model, because we're going to have to reiterate, we get feedback, we change, right? And this is why we normally speak about when we fail fast. And what that means is, don't hang on to something that's not working because you think you might just need X, Y, and Z more time to perfect something. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Be agile and move away and adopt. And within that process, it requires a lot of resilience, right? You need to be able to get up in the morning and want to do what you do, even if it's not going as quick as you thought. You know, it might take 2, 3, 4, 5 months. You might have not even made any money so far. And then the other issue comes in, you have a family, you know, and that puts a lot of pressure on entrepreneurs as well, where you have a set of expectations, you share that with the family, and the family think that you would be successful in, 2 to 3 months, and that might not be the case. So then you start working with other emotional pressures that's being placed upon you. And this is where it's very key that you have to remember as an entrepreneur that you need to be experimental, be open, but have fun. This is the most critical part. I think as soon as we become too serious, we really start to want to control more. And the more we're trying to control, the more control we lose, right? It's because it's all about having that meaning and purpose in your life. So if you do it, you have to make sure that this is enough to internally motivate you and drive you, even when things are not going to plan.
Thank you very much, Adele, for your contribution and your final speech tonight. And now I would like to invite Matt Black for your final contribution. And Matt, I would like to ask the question, what would you say to 16 years old Matt regarding, what you should do, what to focus on in order to make sure you keep doing, you're motivated to move forward and you're not scared of this entrepreneurial journey?
Interesting question. So what would I tell my 16-year-old self? Well, right now, from where I'm sitting, 30 years after I started building my first company, the lessons I've learned that I would tell myself are be other people focused. That's the number one. For me, at this last 15 years or so, all I've done is, find great people that have a dream and that are excited for that dream and really want it to go places, and just be all about them winning. Just, myself, my employees, people, partners, anybody I drag in, whether I get them money or I get them skills or give them advice, I'm always about them winning. You want. If I gave you a pile of money today, it wouldn't get you what you want. You think it will, but trust me, it won't. Having great experiences and helping other people through life and winning is where it's all at. And for me, the final kind of articulation of this whole concept is impact. So for me, I'm impact orientated on other people, impact orientated on the world. All the projects I work with tend to make some kind of a positive change in the world. And that gives me the excitement, the enthusiasm, so that when things are tough, because things get tough, no matter what your skill set is. And when things are really tough, it's that type of big picture, the big vision that gets me out of bed, that gets me doing the work that I don't want to do and gets me where I want to go. And it helps, and I give the same advice to my clients. So if you're starting your journey, find something that firstly inspires you and drives you. Try to be other people focused if you can. And once you've got the basics sorted out, just be all about delivering value to your staff, to your friends, to your co-founders, everybody around you, and bring everybody along on the journey. Entrepreneurship is a team game. And there's no such thing, you talk to any successful founder, it's all about their team. Okay, I think that's it.
Thank you very much, Matt Black. It was very interesting and insightful. Thanks. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight. It was an amazing session. And thank you very much, all our experts and special guests tonight, for your amazing contribution to our workshop. Please check out our website eligent.club and see more of what we do, and please come to our next events. Thank you very much one more time. Stay tuned for more updates.